still there. Hello and welcome to another Autoflow webinar. And boy, this one's going to be fun because I have a couple of good friends and great guests, and it's just going to be a lot of fun talking with these guys as we move through this topic, which we titled Better Together. Because guys, it is. Every time we're together, it's better. I have to say. Do you
The title says it all, Craig.
It does. I really enjoy every opportunity I have to collaborate with these folks. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm playing with my screen. Look at me. Nope, there we are. Now we are ready to roll. All right, so Better Together is the title of this webinar. This is about best-in-class tools that complete the client journey. And why I have these gentlemen with me today, I think is going to be self-evident because look, Jeremy, you used to work for us with Autoflow whilst building your own application. No conflict of interest.
Chris is amazing. He's amazing like that. That takes you got to come at life with just a pure heart and come alongside people that are needing a spot to. And Chris did that, Craig, and then to get to meet you and the whole Autoflow team, that's unforgettable. It's why we are. Well, I'd like to say it out loud, public. We're friends, right?
Heck yeah, friend. This is family. This is family time. David, sponsor of my podcast for one, but just, man, every time I've been at a vendor expo and you've been a neighbor, we get to talk about so many things, the client journey among them. Phone skills is another. Communication. You are a communication expert that happens to have a phone service for auto repair shops. And we share a lot of clients, and that's a beautiful thing.
We do, and working together, Craig, has been phenomenal, and the things that we've been able to put together with Jeremy and his team over at AppFueled are great. You know, we talk about the phone being the front door for our businesses in so many ways, and it holds true. Being an expert in that lane is super important to me, and I know that it touches the customer journey and impacts our customer relationship. So we can dig into that a little bit more. I'm super passionate about what we do in the lane of communication, and we partner to really complete that process as it touches the other parts of data that are part of our overall customer journey.
Yes. This plays perfectly into what we're talking about. And hey, before we go too far into our conversation, I want to get your opinion on this too, Jeremy and David. This was the poll responses I always do this pre-webinar poll with our audience to get a sense for how this conversation needs to be framed, but just understanding we're meeting everyone where they're at and addressing the problems that they're facing. And this was a fun question to ask. What's the biggest challenge facing your shop? We funneled you into 4 different responses here so that we could get some meaningful results. And I thought this was we are technology guys. We have programs and platforms we need people to use. 44% getting my team to actually use the tools we have.
I absolutely I love these numbers, Craig. This poll was from everyone attending today, right? These numbers.
Everyone who registered, whether they make it live or not and watch the recording later. Yeah, correct. You got it.
Yep. Nothing is surprising there, I suppose. Right? Except maybe 44, I would have thought could have been 80.
Could have been, yeah. Adoption is the age-old problem in business. So we see so many times that, hey, we've got this cool shiny thing that doesn't add value, so an owner wants it. And I don't know all of the reasons that are driving the number here that are suggesting that there could be a challenge with adopting technology or adopting systems and process within the shop. And I do know that largely, change management is problematic. So we need to understand what brings value. How does this impact me? The end user's experience as well. So when we want to get people to use the tools that we have, those are the questions. With my background as a process engineer, my head kind of pops a little bit when I see these numbers because I know largely why this happens in the shop as well.
Oh man, we're going to need to talk more about your background as a process engineer. That's probably a whole different topic, isn't it? Maybe not. We'll bring that into this one.
It will be part of what we talk about today.
That's good.
Certainly at some level. Yeah.
Well, I was just at a workshop with George Kingman. It was a service advisor and operations manager workshop. And one of the things, and it came up, and your product came up too, David, with call inbound. A lot of people writing down the number when I was describing like the AI ability to do some of the reporting and point out coachable behavior. Because George asked a question to that group where it's like, how many of you, if we called your shop right now, are going to love what we hear if the whole group is listening? And it's like, oh man, everyone's a little nervous shifting in the seat. And it's like, if we called your shop right now, go ahead, do it, right? Fine. No, but it was in a moment of admission that the phone skills maybe aren't up to snuff in the shop. And so I saw 22% here, but in my personal perspective, it should probably be a little higher.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of self-awareness. So that the phone skills largely has to do with what's my willingness as the owner to have awareness or believe that we're not doing well. But you know, it's a great question, Craig. It can be cringeworthy in a group because when you say like, "Hey, can we call your shop right now?" Do you feel like you have confidence or you'd be pleased with what you hear on the other end of the phone when that customer is greeted? So that gets back to the front door matter. The front door is many times that phone call. And there are a variety of stats and data. We won't bore you with all that stuff, but we have about 15 to 30 seconds to establish the basis for my customer relationship on the first time somebody calls my business. I have about 15 to 30 seconds to establish the framework of that entire customer experience over time. And we're beginning to set the stage whether they're going to come back and see me before they've even come in to see me. So this is very important, and it's important we'll talk about visibility to this information. How quickly can I access the performance of my front line? But it does come back to the fundamentals. And Craig, we've talked about this before on your podcast as well. Do we have a process or an expectation? Do I have a call flow that I'm asking my service advisors and training them when they answer the phone, a customer's calling, do they understand what I expect? And is that framed in industry best practices? So there's a lot that goes into that initial phone call, and it leads to the overall customer experience.
And this is spot on because there's the phone skills with that, but then you're talking also about use of data. And Jeremy, that's cited in here too, turning vehicle data into action. And I feel that's very closely related to the other one, following up with customers consistently. So between phones, following up, the data, and getting the team to use the tools that we have.
Yeah, I mean, really, when I'm looking at what David is doing, first of all, this is what I love. Coming from AppFueled, we don't, because it's an app, right? I mean, even if you have Chick-fil-A, let's talk about them for a moment. Even Chick-fil-A, if you just sit there out in the parking lot and you watch the drive-through, less than 50% of a Chick-fil-A drive-through customers are using the app. And I just did that on a random afternoon. I just sat there. I just wanted to watch consumer behavior. And I think that's an interesting point now. And I'm going to connect this to the phones in a second. Because of that, though, you have a gap where the app or the CRM or the follow-up texting, whatever you might have in place in your shop, the bottom line is, though, everybody actually drove through the drive-through. And I view that as similar to the phone. Like, whether or not they were going to be in your app or do what you wanted them to do or fill out a form or book it the right way, you're going to have them drive through your shop, or in this case, they're going to be on the phone with your shop. So it's such a critical touch point I finally get access to by being integrated with Call Inbound, where now as a CRM and as an app, because we really care about engagement with the customer. So I'm looking at this number going, that's a really amazing number. We could really say 100% of touch points almost all happen on the phone. And then we're essentially breaking those down. 22% would say, well, I want to do it well on the phone. I would say if we had that probably wasn't in your questions, was it, Craig? Was there another option then for them to say like other, or
I didn't give it, but I'm sure there are more.
Yeah, I'm wondering through like it's so many times customers show up and expectations weren't set right. We didn't empower the customer. And so I'm looking at that last one, turning vehicle data into action. That's where we're headed. We want to go. We know exactly the score and the health of a vehicle. And then on an incoming call, could the advisor know it that fast? And then in addition, could the customer know it that fast? And so those are the two things we're trying to bring together, so
Yeah.
that could help the advisor do better on the phone. Sure, they
Help
could
the
get better
advisor do
phone
better.
skills.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why, David, this has been fun. Is to see every single car go through the drive-through now is essentially what we're seeing now that we see all the
I have a
calls.
simple theory on that, though, Jeremy.
Yeah, what's
Honestly,
that?
I've been that guy. I'm with my daughter in the car. I want Chick-fil-A. It was a spontaneous decision. We're rolling up as we've made the decision. We didn't even have time to go to the app. I'm just going to talk to the guy, depending
Yeah.
on the line. Plus,
Yes.
playing with the app while you're driving is dangerous.
Yeah. So your theory is
and against the law in many states now.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we talked about a bunch of problems, and this is where, look, I'm a software vendor, Jeremy, software with an app, and David, you have hardware along with your software and with the phones. Is software the solution? Are things the solution? Because what I feel like we're always coming down to is, like Jeremy just said, human behavior. And this is where I feel software gets a lot of feature requests, a lot of demand all the time. And our guys are, Jeremy, you know this now too, of course, and David, you probably get a feature request, things that we'd like to do. And you have to assess those. Not every idea that everyone has is always a great idea that could be implemented. And sometimes it actually tips the scales towards a direction that we don't really want people to go at all. And this is where I have observed behavior in our industry. And I have seen a lot of shops asking for full automation. And guys, it's coupled with something else. It's coupled with the knowledge that they will be unsuccessful getting their team to leverage the tools that they have. And thus we need full-on automation so that it will be consistent. And David, you're even starting to see the same sort of thing creeping into phones now with AI being able to do this. It turns into an automated AI attendant now. It's gotten to the point where I can't get my team to do something consistently. Now we got to have a bot do the talking too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, AI is an entire conversation on its own, but it kind of lends itself to the core question here: is the solution your software? If the software provides benefit and value and is part of the workflow or the work stream, it definitely does. So
yes.
That's the way that we drive that. So many times the software becomes an extra thing that somebody has to go do. So it can't help the execution of the process. And that's where we see owners talking about bringing in AI. Interestingly enough, 18 months or 2 years ago, there was a lot more dialogue about, replacing the phone answering in entirety, replacing service advisors with AI and bots and so forth. And now, you think about it today, we hear very little about that. I think there have been some attempts. The human experience is still very important to what we do in the front office of our shops. So we have to have the right solution to, and I see, we're going to talk about strategy here. What is that strategy? The right solution is something that facilitates and doesn't stand outside of what we normally do to conduct our work and interact.
Let's hold that thought, because what do we normally do? I actually want to jump to this because I do, because where you're going is exactly where I wanted to go in this conversation, but you're doing it organically, which is brilliant. This is why I love you guys. What we're asking right now, this is a slide I made specifically for this purpose, is what we're asking right now for service advisors. Let's just focus on them specifically. Is a lot. I could have made 3 more slides of tasks and things that we're asking them to be involved in or have ownership of or do on every ticket and all this stuff. And every time I show this slide, everyone's like, eye starts twitching, all the things. And look at when it gets busy, this is what we can get done. This is about it. Is this fair?
I don't like that. Look at all the things left off. I don't really like that.
I don't like it either, but is this not what a typical
reality hurts sometimes?
This is about the baseline that we can reasonably expect when things get very busy and chaotic, right? I think this is where we fall to. This is the minimum. And guys, I've been in a room where I've had the owner sitting with their managers, and the owner bumps the manager here and see, even when it gets busy for other people, they still gather basic info. It's
Always get complete info, right?
Right. It's an easy
Yeah.
thing to say, and
Yeah.
every one of us could fall guilty to it when we're in a whirlwind of activity. The phones are ringing off the hook, and all these things fall apart. And this is where I feel the sentiment shift in our industry has started tipping towards like all-in-one platforms. Like if it's not all right there in front of me, I'm never going to do the thing. But what I have witnessed over time is it doesn't matter how many things are in one platform. Autoflow itself has so many things in one platform, and people will not leverage everything even in that one platform. And that is not the solution. It's how we are actually putting things in front of people and able to support the habits that we need them to see. And this is where I'm doing this completely out of order, but I've done this topic before. And I think you guys are readers. Jeremy, you're certainly familiar. I know with C.S. Lewis, we've talked on this one before, just privately. But like active habits, right? They're strengthened by repetition. Passive ones, the things that get automated, those things get weakened over time. That becomes a task I no longer have to deal with because it's fully automated, thus off my mind completely. And the more often that this becomes the case, the less likely we are to be able to ever have it be the case. And I think this is a dangerous road for a lot of shops as they start to consider automation and especially like AI attendants are going to be a thing, but how we interlace that's going to be the bigger problem to solve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're heading into difficult waters.
And I agree, Craig. And sometimes I like to this. I don't know if you do this too, David. But before I get to the problem solving, sometimes like prioritizing. So, and I'm just curious, Craig. You deal with that slide a lot, and you've talked and you coach and you advise on it.
Yeah.
Which one? Back to where you're showing the red boxes.
Whoa.
I'm curious. I'm curious now. Which ones would you put on top of the red? Like if we were to say there's actually these three that also should be red.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, you get what I'm getting at? Like, what is, because
Of
based
all
on
of these other options, of which there's 50 more. Yeah.
What should be red in there that just can't be skipped from the way you
Oh
coach
man,
it,
if
right?
I had to pick one, Jeremy, I love your questions. I knew it wouldn't be long before we got a Jeremy question in this. I would make sure we're
I don't want to
gathering
solve a
relational
problem
info.
if I don't know what we're
We're
solving.
gathering relational information. Like this
Okay.
is like no one's taking the time to get to know the people right in front of them at all. There's zero effort, and we're in a service business, and that's for me, like creating space to do that is so key. And this plays right into phone skills, David. Like the people who are gifted with those skills and have been properly trained to draw more out of people and milk out those limited time frames that you have to engage with people to get meaningful information that makes it feel like a real connection happened.
Right. It happens every day, and I hear examples every day, and it's actually simple to solve. So establishing the flow and the understanding of how you can do this, we're typically asking, we'll have maybe a 60 to 90 second conversation with a customer and not know their name. So that's important, very much to the point that you just brought up. What can I do differently? So thank you for calling ABC Auto. My name is David. How may I help you? And then they're going to say, how much for this, or do you do that, or whatever. At some level, it doesn't matter what they say. A well-trained advisor is going to say, I can help you with that. Who am I speaking with? Or what's your name?
I can help you with that.
Craig, thank you for calling us. Have you been in to see us before? Or I may know that and say, I know that I know you've been in to see us before. Thanks for tuning us again. This type of thing. Now we've moved on from a transaction. Anybody that calls a shop can have a transaction. And if I'm waiting 60 or 90 seconds to even try to make a connection with this customer by name, I've at some level failed. It's hard to use that word, but the fact of the matter is there are easy ways to do this. And I think that of those key areas that you've identified, it's possible to improve my execution because I'm doing those tasks at some level already. I'm still answering the phone. And can I do a relationship interaction with a customer instead of a transactional interaction?
Nice. We had a comment from Billy as you're speaking to this, David. He said, we need to practice the 3 C's with our service advisors: conversations, letting them know the why; consistency, expecting the same performance from all team members; and consequences. What happens if they aren't reaching the goals? Do they need more coaching, more time, more support?
I agree with every part of that, Billy. I think it's great to point that out, and you're presumably doing this yourself, so you've established that the response to that would be, as an owner listening to this, have you established that expectation? Have you communicated that to your advisor or advisors? And then follow through with it. Help them understand. We're going to listen to. I always like to encourage owners or managers that are responsible for this to establish, 2 to 3 times a week, we're going to listen to 1 or 2 calls, and it creates that consistency over time. And very much to Billy's point, consistency wins, people. If there's any question what's going to win, consistency wins.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. What you're saying here actually pans out really well with some of the points that I wanted to bring into this too. And Dave Betcher, you have another great comment here too. Dave says, my thing is whether we're adding value and whether we ask open-ended questions of the customer. Yeah, open-ended questions, a great thing.
It's a great way to overcome an objection.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sales call and you're presenting, do the complete presentation. As you get to objections, are we overcoming those with open-ended objections, or open-ended questions rather? And then also on the appointment setting side of this. So have we asked for the appointment? And if there's any hesitation or reservation, are we asking open-ended questions? What could I do to help you drop that vehicle off this afternoon at 2:00?
That's good. And so Dave, like, here's the thing. The things that our comments are bringing up, I think they play into this really well. There's the consequence, there's the oversight, there's the whether or not this is happening piece. And this is where, from an operations standpoint, this is very hard for shop owners who probably need their own slide of all the things they're responsible for, which is probably a million things.
How many slides? Just one, you said?
Oh my goodness. I don't think it fit in a deck.
Yeah.
Right. But now this is where the technology does come in, because what you're now doing and capable of doing, and this is one of the things I love pointing to people for, is that you don't have to just randomly go and try to scan every phone call anymore. There's things that can be done so that those calls that have coaching opportunities can be brought right in front of you.
The push idea is really helpful. So there are so many things that owners and managers, people that are responsible for the oversight of this process, they have to go to a place to consume it. And we've learned that if I give you another website or portal that you have to go log into to do something, you're just not going to do it.
Oh.
It's not that you don't want to. Want and ability are very different, Craig. So you absolutely want to do that. I have yet to talk to an owner that says, I don't want my service advisors to handle calls better. Every owner does. I promise you that. But how can I give you the right tool to make this consumable and meaningful? Because the number one barrier to accomplishing this on the call review, coaching, and training aspect is time. Hands down, the biggest barrier to entry is time. They just don't have time to do it. So if it becomes a complex process, now we're going to move further and further away from doing this on a consistent basis. And again, consistency wins. I'll probably say that again in our conversation today. So we distribute an email that's already analyzed a set of calls that are categorized, appointment setting or opportunity calls or sales calls. But here's your email. Here's a top call and a coachable call. We don't call them good or bad. Even a coachable call could have an appointment set, but there's some opportunity in there to learn how we can do this better and deliver that along with another list, a separate list of other calls, but they've already been, pre-screened, analyzed, qualified, leveraging AI. And now I put this into your inbox, you click it. Now I've got my conversation opportunity with my service advisor. Brilliant. This is what enables the process to work, because I've taken that heavy lift of time off the front end. And now I can have a 2 or 3 minute conversation, like targeted, meaningful conversation. And the other aspect too, that I like to remind owners, this isn't me going to find a call. So inherently I'm not picking on my advisor. This is the tool presented this call. Let's listen to this together. Boom. We listen to it, or we're going to read through the analysis, and we'll identify, because what AI can help us do is identify the call, identify what worked well and what didn't work well, but then also provide some instruction or guidance on how to do that differently next time.
Nice. Ooh, that's good.
And if I could add, David, because to this comment about time, it's also a matter of tools and minimizing tools. And so the way, like this took me 12 years to learn this, and that's a fast record speed for my learning. Usually it's longer, but in 12 years I learned one thing. I learned that there's actually a Batman. There's a Batman fighting justice in a shop today for service advisors. And Craig, I think this is what kind of maybe kicked off this whole webinar idea.
Yeah.
It was that you've got thousands of Autoflow users hanging out in Autoflow today. And according to the poll, what was it? 44% they want that tool to be used better, right? Was that?
Sure.
Am
Well,
I
not
following
just
the,
that tool, all tools.
all tools? But let's just pick on Autoflow for the sake of it being
Sure.
Autoflow. We got thousands of Autoflow users living in Autoflow every day. That's their Batman, I like to say. He's fighting justice in Batman. And so what we finally discovered, thanks to the Chrome extension marketplace, was that you could have a Robin show up as needed. He's usually not there. You don't really want him there. He's a little bit annoying, to be honest, a little bit pesky. But it's like, why did this guy, like, this is an interesting duo, Batman and Robin. But so Craig, when I was showing you that we call it the Sidekick Ninja, it's like, we don't want to upset the advisor's day and like, look at all this extra stuff you have to do. So keep fighting justice with Batman.
We talked about this in
as needed. Right? Robin pops in.
Robin can pop in. So we talked about, now David talked about it from an oversight standpoint and helping coach our advisors. What about the things that actually make it easier for our advisors to do some of the tasks that we're asking them to do? And this is exactly one of the things that did. Yeah. And I always like to be careful when we're showing product stuff, but this is
well, because
cool
it's time and tools, and it's connected to your survey, Craig. I thought if time is the issue, that is one thing, but if you have minimal time, then you better make the tool even easier. And so that connection spot, to have just people that totally know their way around Autoflow. Now AppFueled doesn't have to say, oh, we have to like give them a new Batman. It's like, no, we're just, so this was a moment. And David, we've learned this, like watching what shop owners now put into their AI scoring. The things I've learned about what a shop owner's wanting to know about the quality of phone calls has taught me a lot about the industry. Guys, I've never been in a shop. I don't work in a shop. I really can't do much with cars at all. Like pretty much, I can drive, and it's a manual if anyone's really wanting me on the statistics. But as far as like listening to what shop owners want, I enjoy reading their AI prompts and going, because right, wasn't the 22% was they want the ability to improve on the phone. And so I always like to see, and this is back to like, not everything a customer says we should probably build it. Some of the things being seeked and some of the information being sought out in these prompts, guys, is a little bit, it's like, I wouldn't build, but whatever. Hey, if you want to burn the AI tokens in our platform to get to that answer. So there's been a lot of learning curve for me, guys, to see this happen. You've got users now with a tool, and every phone call is at their fingertips. And I think that's what you're about to show here.
It's that information, right? One of the things that, and David, you probably have noticed this before, a lot of times advisors don't have information in front of them. Right. When they're trying to carry a conversation. And once you've done this, if anyone who's ever been in one of those shops where you're not just seeing tens of cars a day, but like one advisor might see 50 different faces in front of the counter, or you're dealing with a shop that deals with 1,000 cars a month. That is a lot of stuff to try to keep up here. And that is not something any of our human beings are capable of doing, which means they need access to information. Look, one of the things that I talk about is the orientation of the business. We talk about the systems and processes, but that use of information is where we are. If the business isn't oriented towards retention, which is the goal of all businesses. I want to be clear. It isn't to get that customer fixed right the first time, every time. That's a great objective to make sure they're happy and do come back. The goal of business is make sure you have people coming back. You have to. If you don't focus on retention, you will always have to be focused on getting new clients. And that is not an easy thing to do in auto repair. So orientation is our chief goal. The systems and processes, the ways that we go about that is something we can implement. And they must be focused on that major piece of use of information. And this is why things are better when they're together and communicating. It is why AI will be impactful, because it's good at connecting data from lots of really poorly structured sources and putting it into a common spot for us. But Jeremy, you've done this with the Sidekick Ninja, and this blew my mind when you showed me this the other day for one of our clients at Harold's. They now have, from the client profile right there in Autoflow, the ability to click to call, like with inbound, or see the full conversation all at their fingertips. Now, we have something where a service advisor can follow up meaningfully with someone with the full context of not just the most recent visit that you're happen to be opened up on, but all of the visits.
Yeah. And if you see, and Craig, I love that you touched on the relationship. It's that's part of it is nobody likes to do, well, a lot of times we do blind things. So you might go on a lunch break and that call that came in and you missed it, to be able to just step right back in. We've got that notes and activity feed right there. So if you're on an Autoflow work order page and you open up the Sidekick, you get instant access to all of the text and calls, all transcribed, recorded, and AI scored right there with the work order. So it's not even like you have to go look at the entirety of the customer thread. It's just, here's what's going on this work order. And then in addition, and it's not highlighted there, but Craig, to your relational points, you see that we've got a customer score that happens to be an F, and we've got a Google review on that kind of that right panel right there, even to see while you're interacting on a phone. So before I've even answered this phone call, I'm seeing that this customer left a Google review. They have an F consumer engagement score. Again, we might want to work on the Fs here, and that has nothing to do against the Herald's Group. They're awesome. They're actually rolling out our custom loyalty app, so we're going to be expecting to see a lot of those be Bs or Cs, but hopefully A's. Right, Matt, if you're listening. But what's happening in this moment is now when that incoming call comes in, before I even click answer, I can see the person's picture. I can see who they are. I can one click open and see the recent call that might have just happened a minute ago, and just have it right at the fingertips, no extra tool, just hanging out with Batman.
Craig, are you muted?
I am muted.
You're back.
I touched my mic. Yeah, Billie Jean asked a good question. Will this pair with Autoflow texting with client follow-ups? I'm not sure on that piece, Jeremy. I believe so. Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the things that slowed us down a little bit, Craig. We were doing it in the shadows like the ninjas always do. But what we discovered is what we discovered. Who answered the question? I don't know who it was, but
Billie Jean Martel.
Yep. Billie Jean, hi. So great question. The best we could come up with to help this be an Autoflow smooth experience, we brought all of the Autoflow text messages into the notes and activity thread. So anything you were doing in your texting through Autoflow appears in the notes and activity thread, just right along in a date timestamp. So it's not lost in the thread of your communication. So you might have a call inbound phone call. You might have a CRM text going out. You might have an Autoflow text going on because of the visit, and it's all just in a nice thread.
Super slick, dude. And you click the call button, and then your phone service with call inbound is dialing. Oh man,
Yeah.
That's one of the on the phone call side of it, but the text message question is great too, because we have so many different places that customers may hear from us via text or phone. So having all of that consolidated into a view of my customer touch points, those CRM touch points, the text message touch points, the phone calls. Now we've taken all of these different transactional components of how we're interacting with the customer. Jeremy's compiled that under a single view, and it moves us into this relationship understanding instead of the other. We've historically missed a big piece of it. Certainly phone call was kind of on the outside of our transactional scope of what my customer touch points are.
A lot harder.
Having visibility to that is huge. And then to also complement that to say, whether it's a CRM text message or an Autoflow text message, that's all now compiled into one view of the customer. It's a phenomenal way to get that snapshot. And this is what it comes down to for the service advisor. We need to bring it back at some level to the, what's in it for me as a service advisor on the front counter, all of those other things that I have going on. I can very quickly get into this, and particularly on the high car count, they're seeing, 30, 50 cars a day. They need to have that quick ability to get refreshed, so I understand what my customer engagement and touch point activity is.
Yeah. It wasn't possible the way that we can do it now. I feel like, boy, I've been doing software now 8 years since this. I remember dreaming of stuff like this being possible back in I was still on Mitchell for 15 years, and I can't even imagine doing that with some of these systems anymore that were more of the land-based instead of cloud-based. And weren't using APIs and anything else. That degree of sophistication that's gone into being able to make multiple platforms communicate well together is what's really impressed me.
Yeah. So, Greg, are you seeing, and David, are you seeing Billy's next follow-up comment? I thought, wow,
I did not.
Whoever Billy is, that's some,
Put my questions on.
We don't do booking calls with the service advisors. We have a reservationist role
Wow, who
for
came up with
bookings
that?
and CRM. So we
That
have all
is
that
awesome.
info going straight to the SA. It's perfect. Yes. So I hear some Rudy Martins in here, and
Yes.
my coach Bob Greenwood was a big fan of the reservationist role as well. It is such an awesome thing. I didn't put it in this deck, Billy, but I absolutely have the corresponding slide for our little piece here with all the tasks that a service advisor does. I have a separate slide that actually has all of these tasks. Let me pop this back on. Yeah, there it is. It's on the screen still. You saw me scrolling. I forgot that was all being shared the whole time. Oh, well. This deck is going everywhere. I have this deck split in half where a lot of the reservationist roles are all on the left side. Those two columns are things that, then these might be different for different models, but this would be all things that we have a specific role in the shop doing this. When you're asking too much of one person, sometimes it isn't more software you need. Maybe it's another person. And why is that a wrong thing to suggest sometimes? Maybe it's a role in the shop that addresses this stuff, and it plays right back into thing. Is software the solution? In my professional opinion, I think software can absolutely help you do amazing things, but it doesn't actually replace people. It makes the people that you have more valuable.
Yeah. And the outcome, this is why I love what Billy Jean's up to. The outcome is that a customer who might not know that, it's like, let's go back even a year ago. If a reservationist makes a phone call and they call back, and for whatever reason, right, David, it rings to the main shop phone. What happens is that whoever answers that phone call isn't aware of the reservationist's great, although it might have been a great outbound call. It might have been perfectly timed with all of the vehicle data and extremely helpful. Now the customer calls back, and for whoever answers the phone to not immediately know what prompted the reservationist outbound attempt,
Jeremy.
what was the overall picture of the vehicle and or customer, and so guys, that was the impetus behind the Sidekick Ninja, because we have call centers getting a daily queue. They're just pounding great calls. That's their job, is to call. And when I say we have, AppFueled doesn't hire call agents, but there are organizations out there that do that. They're just dialing, making great professional calls. And on the incoming, though, is where it can almost become a problem, because the outbound effort does lead to inbound efforts. And so for us to have, like, now we got a call inbound moment for that inbound call to prompt the advisor.
A call inbound.
And like I like to tell,
all come together now, right?
David, are we finally seeing the vision? But I told David, hey David, could you come up with we need to have a new slogan. We're putting the outbound in call inbound. I was curious, because a lot of people ask me about call inbound. Well, do they do outbound calls? I mean, I said, I think you can pick up a phone and you can make an outbound phone call. That's not, I'm pretty sure, but talk to David. David loves my little emails I send over. David, can they dial outbound? Guys, I'm kind of joking, but it's been a beautiful thing, guys, to see it. And that's what I'm excited about. Now you have a third party person, whoever that is. In Billy Jean's case, it's probably an in-house reservationist who knows the DNA of your shop. And then now you have a service advisor who can handle the incoming, and it's a merged world. I'm excited, guys.
I am too.
So the reservationist, whether it's a third party or an in-house resource, the process breakdown that you highlighted, Jeremy, warrants some better understanding, because what can happen is we've got this skilled professional who's making these outbound calls. That might be a member of my team. It might be a contract member that I've hired externally. When they have that conversation, follow-up occurs. If that call comes back in and the service advisor has no clue what's going on, now we have a process break, and it creates mistrust and dissatisfaction for my customer.
Yeah.
So now they're like,
service
what?
providers should be able to take it from a blank slate every single time and turn it into fruit.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to start from zero.
Right. So if we ever have to start from zero, now the customer's like, well, you guys, you called me. Like, how do you not know what this is about?
Yeah.
And now taking in,
frustrating.
same thing could happen with text messages, right? So if we compile this together now, as you've done, where you have really a single view, all of these bits and pieces that come together to create that profile, the communication touch point and contact profile, so that no matter who is making the outgoing call, fielding the incoming call, I have the ability to see all of that in front of me. And it's not, it doesn't become this very complex process to go and sort through it all, right? It's a very clear picture of what these touch points are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it, guys. No, I think that's the big picture that we're pulling it all together here. So we bounced around through this deck a lot, but I think that the points came through.
I'm glad you had so many slides prepared.
I had some slides. I need a visual. I'm one of those guys. I can listen and I can hear people say things, but if I don't see it and eventually get hands-on with it, it's gone.
Right.
But that's just it. You got something you can put your hands on here, and it's right in front of people. My simple theory is like, advisors are actually trying to do their best and accomplish all the goals that they have all the time. They're trying. They really are.
Mm-hmm.
And when the moment you have to go and work hard to scrape for some of the data you need to be able to speak about something with any form of knowledge, that's a barrier to that, and it's stressful. And then once you bring stress into the equation, it's you're gonna falter on everything else, and it's gonna be an inbound call that we worked on, and then we're not going to perform well on that because we're frazzled. Everything breaks down from that point, and that's not necessary.
Yeah. Would you, and Craig, in that breakdown moment, like in the world of Autoflow, this is where maybe we could this, I'm just kind of doing a feature request for AppFueled right now. Is there a place where that relational information, because I feel like that's what you mentioned,
lots of places. That's actually part of the problem, and platforms that have evolved over time, they create many pockets of places where information can go. And this is where, look, the future is exciting, really exciting, because AI doesn't need the structured data. A lot of times it knows how to search the pockets for you. And getting AI layers built into each of the tools is a major component of architectural updates. And the future is bright for being able to prompt people with information better than we've ever done before. And that's wonderful. But right now, it's effort, and you have to know where to go. And knowing where to go is something that you have to train somebody on. And then you have to have the wherewithal to go to the place at all and know what reason you're going there for, based on context of a conversation that's happening dynamically right now, which happened right after you had a conversation with someone else who was also dynamic and required all that stuff. And I don't think there's enough brain calories in the average human being to be able to master that.
Yeah. And especially hold that many relationships in your head at once. I mean, I only have 2 kids and I can barely navigate those waters, and I see people with 4 kids. I'm like, that's insanity. But that's an example in my head. Anyways, I'm literally taking notes for Presley and Pierce, my son and daughter, trying to figure out what's going on in their lives next, because it's, when you're hitting close to 50, things are starting to go, But that note-taking capacity, Craig, so that's a question, I suppose. It seems like if people used more of Autoflow in the note-taking capacity you guys have, that they would get better on the phone, just in that connection too, right?
Correct. But then they also need to know where to go for those pieces. Exactly. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I want to just go back to Dave's question, which we saw for a moment up here, or his point rather. It's spot on, right? The more that the harder we make it to do business with us, the customers will comply. They won't do business with us. That's really what Dave is saying here. And whether it's an AI bot that creates complexity because the AI doesn't have the information, and it just winds up creating this loop or frustration,
useless
or
loop.
or the skill on the front line, right? When somebody calls and we don't have a well-trained service advisor, and now it's hard. We're not asking for the appointment, or the common thing that makes all of our heads pop is can I get in for XYZ? Yeah, we're pretty busy.
Oh man, this happens though. It happens. Dude, I was in a hardware store. I was looking for a finish nailer and
Yep.
it was behind a locked cabinet. So I had to get someone to do it. First person I see say, hey, I need to get a finish nailer out of here. It's in the locked cabinets.
Yeah.
I can't help you with that. I don't have the key.
So let's make
someone
it
who
easy
can.
for people to do business with us. You know, making statements like, I can help you with that, answering their questions when they call back in, no matter the different people that may be interacting, conversing, sending information or receiving information from a customer, compiling that into one place, like Jeremy's done really well with the Sidekick, but having quick access to that and not being a confusing or complicating factor on customer interaction. Dave, your point is perfect. I think that when we remove those barriers to doing business with us, it builds customer trust. They have confidence that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, and they're going to come back to see us.
Brilliant. Yep. One of the things too, boy, I was going to show this. I should have put it on my screen earlier. Removing barriers. One of the things that I consider a barrier is when people have to go dig for that information. This is on our site too. If those of you haven't seen this, let me pop this back up here. I'm doing a really good job with the buttons. This is probably hard to see. It's a GIF image actually on our training page for this. Putting it right there. It's one thing you don't have to dig for. This is what automation is for. This is what automation is for. In Craig opinion, strong Craig opinion, we automate putting information in front of people that need to act with that information, not try to remove them from the whole thing. What we do is we bring things in. A call comes in, pop up the information on who the person is that's calling, when their last visit was, and that at least gives you a baseline entry point immediately without having to do anything else right there. This is one of my favorite things that we recently added. Michael Catullo is working with us, getting that all confirmed and integrated. And I was just talking to you before this webinar, one of our clients over at Boca, they're working on getting this integrated as well, which is really great to see.
That's handy. Yeah. Because who knows what ticket or customer you're interacting with for that to come across.
What was that, Jeremy?
Oh, I was saying, who knows? I mean, yeah, when someone's looking at an inbound call without that information you were showing right there, you can't even really say, hi, hi, Craig, thanks for calling back about your Honda, like just being able to make it sound like you know exactly who you are and why you're there.
Sometimes they just launch into the conversation where there's like, yeah, my car's making this noise. Are you referring to the 2017 Honda? Right? Yeah. And
you're like, wait.
This guy's great.
And maybe Craig, that's a good sign. That's maybe a good sign of our industry that a lot of us are getting this going, where customers now expect you to know when they call. They just expect that they're the only customer. Like I'm the only car that you have there right now. It's only my part that you're trying to get.
Well, I want to go here in this conversation because look, we touched on it, and we don't have enough time to go into the conversation too deeply, but I want to get your opinions because mine is slowly evolving on the AI subject, very much more towards embracing it where appropriate as opposed to fighting it. And the AI attendants, I think they're getting kind of good again for some basic stuff. And I think if we actually just want them to be good at the basic stuff, I tested one the other day. It was very effective at simply giving me a calendar link to schedule an appointment. Starting there, that was good. It wasn't trying to be in everything type of a scenario. What's your experience with this so far? And do people even want it on the client side, the motorist calling a shop? I don't think clients are demanding this as much as shops are wanting it, is my theory.
Shops want it, and that's a complex question, whether you realize that or not. I'm a firm believer at this point with the capability of AI that the more narrow scope we have on what we're asking the AI to actually do for our customer or with our customer, the better the experience is going to be. When we are answering the phone with a virtual assistant AI and saying, hi, I'm whoever, how may I help you? We're not saying that it's an AI agent or an AI anything. We're trying to emulate this is a real person. The conversation can go one of thousands of different directions, and it can immediately spiral into a source of frustration. So we narrow this scope. Appointment scheduling is great, right? We can actually, in many cases, gain a better conversion, and we can establish better expectations with the customer, such as drop off. We can talk about the drop off appointment and confirming that they're dropping off their vehicle, so that there's not maybe a misconception that this is going to be a waiter appointment. Sometimes that never comes up in a human conversation. So we can be very effective with that. And then as we grow over time, I do see, in 2 years or 3 years, AI will be a very different thing than it is today, because the ability to connect. I mean, you did your session on using AI to help write code, right? So the more people that learn and understand, the more effective and capable AI can be. We can connect our AI assistants into these other systems where they need to have information. I don't know that it replaces somebody, because
exactly, dude.
We like the human contact. We really do.
I was talking to a service advisor that was a friend of my son's, and she was meeting with one of the leaders of that larger group that was looking for feedback on there, and she was asking about topics that she should be bringing. I said, "What's your group doing with AI right now? Do they have any tools that they invite you to use?" No. That'd be my question for him. What are their policies around it right now? And what tools will they provide for you to be able to do your job more effectively? They have these parts people, they have them estimating and working with the service advisors on the write-up side of things. And yet they're getting a wide variety of old and new cars, and they're not leveraging these tools, and they aren't given any guidance on how to use those tools either. And worse, they're not even integrated into the systems that they have. And worse than that, a lot of the systems those dealers have can't even integrate with them if they want to, because of the archaic nature of those systems. Right. So, man, it's a stack of problems.
I could take a stab at answering your question, Craig. You want me to go for it?
Go for it, brother.
The AI inbound answering agent. Here's what slowed me down a little bit on our team developing it. And so we first of all, I have 3 absolutes as we won't build it without these 3 things. The first one is that the voice identifies itself as AI.
Yes.
And so
good
that's step number 1. Step number 2, the AI is extremely clear on what you're saying, David, the roles it can do. So, hi, thanks for calling Craig's shop. I'm an AI assistant here to serve you today with things like booking, answer questions about direction or hours. So you've set the tone now, but here's the third thing, and this isn't what's slowing us down. I'll get to a back end 4th thing, but the third thing is for the ability for them to go, I want a human, and at any moment for the AI to be positioned and ready to do the transfer, and if the transfer doesn't get human, then to bring it back to AI and generate. Now here's the 4th back end thing, but you guys get where I'm going with these 3 things. If you talk
3 laws safe, here we go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Those 3 things, like if you break any of those 3, I think you've let down the customer's expectations that they were probably hoping for a human. They also might be trying to use AI for more than it can help them with. Right. And then also they feel deceived. So all 3 of those to me seem like a break in trust just right out of the gates. Cause I wanted a human. This wasn't clear. And now you're deceiving me. So
I feel that's the worst thing that you could do. Yes.
So those 3 things, but here's actually the 4th thing that holds up why AppFueled's not made some public announcement that we've got one. We've got it. We've got the transfer down. We have the part where it's clear expectations. Our AI can send a text. It can do all that. But here's the 4th thing. I want that AI conversation to be just as readily available to the service advisor and the Sidekick Ninja.
This is the solution.
Just as ready as they would have been if they talked to human.
You're spot on. For any purpose, people leveraging AI to write their emails or execute tasks for them. Once you give away agency, I mean, and that's what they're called. They are called agents. And what I refer to as agency is my faculties and ability to act. And once I don't have the context of how I have been perceived to act, that is a deep concern. And that it creates what David has mentioned before, consistency. If you don't have consistency in that interaction from there, so your AI did one thing, the human has no context to it and makes the client go through everything they went through already with the AI.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So that's where we're at, guys, behind the shadows, and this is where we want it to be. That the ninja can present to the advisor an incoming call, and they get the live transcript of the AI call.
I
And
love how
that's
casually
there front and
you say
center.
the ninja.
The ninja. Yeah, the ninja. That's what I call it. The AI ninja voice. That's our little internal name. Now it's external, but that's critical to me. Like, it's back to relationships. Don't break trust. Tell the truth. Set clear expectations, and of course, let your humans be available at all times. It's like,
At all times.
this
Yes.
has to be.
Well, that plays, David, another piece of our AI that I've seen people do is for when the humans are not, in fact, available. But it would have to disclose the fact that a human's not available to still do that piece too. Interesting.
Yeah. And to create a true baton handoff moment that's smooth and doesn't let the customer down, that's the moment that matters, guys. That matters.
It does matter. It does matter greatly. Well, hey, the goal here at Autoflow, of course, is always to make sure that it's not just this is what you have. It's like, yes, we have this, and here's some great people to work with. And guys, I want to thank you again for joining me today on this topic. I think that we all align on this. Like, the platform of the future has room for partnership in it. And I don't know that that's always been the trend or the desire that's stated anyways in the industry. But I always feel like this is the road. Conversations like this that lead to like what you're producing, Jeremy, and what David has, that just makes everything combined into something that's actually useful. So this is very good. Thanks for this conversation, David. Any other closing remarks you have?
I'll just add on to what you said a little bit, that my philosophy at Call Inbound and our roadmap continues to position us as a best-in-class communication provider. So I've chosen to stay in that lane, and I think that there are other philosophies about all-in-one versus being the best in a particular lane. So that's important, and I think it allows us to do what we've done, Craig, with integration to Autoflow. Jeremy, what we've done. I mean, the power of what we've combined, and each of us being the best at what we do, and not having to feel like we have to be everything to everybody. So
that's well said, David. It's why David lets me sleep at night. We don't have to worry about over at AppFueled how to build a phone company and ship out phones and provide their number one tool. I can sleep at night. So thank you, David.
Yeah. No, my grandpa always said, you can't be all things to all people. Although he did also say you have to be all things to all people. So I don't know.
It's contextual.
True.
This was fun, guys. I had a lot of fun here today.
This is fun. And hey, this is how you can get a hold of David or Jeremy. I assume emails are read still today, correct?
Absolutely.
Great way to communicate. People forget that sometimes, but
yeah,
I can be found in my inbox as well. So, hey, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. I hope this was insightful, got your gears turning on some things that are becoming possible, that are possible right now, will be possible in the future. And to stay tuned. This is a rapidly evolving landscape with great thinkers like this. I know Jeremy will be paying attention to the things that you're doing. We have plenty more to talk about with some of the things Brandon's working on. Sorry, he couldn't join us today too, but talking with our friends over there at My Oil Sticker. And man, it's been great. I'm watching people that have worked with us and continue to work with us, even though not under the same umbrella anymore, and still collaborating to accomplish great things for mutual clients. I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah.
Feel very blessed.
Yeah. Likewise, Craig. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, guys. Hey, thanks so much, Dave. Thank you for your comments on the conversation here. I'm glad to hear this was helpful for some of you. Now get out there and hey, reach out if you have any questions. David and Jeremy, we'll be in touch as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful week.
Bye, Autoflow. Bye, Craig. Bye, David.
See you soon, guys.